Halo,
Selamat pagi, Prof. Good morning, Prof. Zahirul.
good morning. It's good afternoon to me, but good morning to you all.
Good morning, Prof.
Good
How,
afternoon, Prof.
how are you? So just live, just see whether my video is working or not. Can you see me?
No, Prof.
No, Prof.
I can see you.
So you have to allow me to my video because my video is on from my side.
Kameranya nggak ada loh.
My video.
Okay, Prof.
Um,
Camera is hidden, Prof.
see. I will just open my laptop, see what happens.
Okay,
You
Prof.
can see now?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to so I had video on my laptop, just on my screen. I'll just so let me share my PowerPoint presentation, see how whether I can get it. Okay, screen. Can you see my screen now?
No, Prof.
Okay, so just thinking.
Okay. It's showing, Prof.
Yeah, still not showing.
It's showing, Prof. Showing, Prof. It's okay. Maybe we can open this sessions, Prof.
Yeah, but we have to get the screen first, sort it out.
Yeah.
So it. Can you see now?
Yes, Prof. It's showing. Okay, for Miss Pacey or Mr. Chris, we can start.
So say you can see the screen now. Is it right? Okay.
Yes, okay, okay, Prof.
Okay then.
Mbak Pepi, di open aja, nggak apa-apa.
Okay, we can start. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning and good afternoon, and a warm greeting to all of us. The Honorable Head of the Public Financial Accounting Department, Ms. Bessie Suryani M.Aka. Good morning, Ms. Bessie.
Good morning, Ms. VP.
The Honorable Prof. Zahirul, Professor of Accounting at RMIT University in Australia. Good afternoon, Prof.
Good afternoon to you and to everyone.
Yeah. Distinguished lecturer, invited guests, and our from student of Universitas Terbuka. Welcome to the first season of the workshop lecturing of the Public Financial Accounting Study Program with the theme Sustainability Management Accounting held today. Let me introduce myself. I'm Vivi Oktari and I will be guiding today's event. Please allow me to read this agenda for today. The first, opening and singing the national anthem, Indonesia Raya, followed by Universitas Terbuka. Second, opening remark by the head of the Public Financial Accounting Department. Third, photo session. For the sharing season 5 Q&A, C conclusion and closing ceremony. Honored guests, the official begins today event. Let us listen together to the national anthem Indonesia Raya, followed by the Universitas Terbuka. We kindly request all participants to switch on your cameras and sit in the appropriate posture. We now proceed to the next agenda to opening remarks. Respectfully invite Ms. Bessy Suryani MAK, Head of the Public Financial Accounting Department of Universitas Terbuka, to deliver her remarks. Ms. Bessy, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Miss Vivi. Good afternoon, Prof. Zahirul.
Good afternoon.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, good morning, distinguished guests, lecturers, students, and colleagues. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
As the head of the Public Financial Accounting Study Programs of Universitas Terbuka, I am truly honored to welcome all participants to the International Electuring 2025, organized in collaborate with the Forum Dosen Akuntansi Publik, or we call FDAP. Today marks a special moment for our study program as we host one of the world's most influential scholars in public sector accounting, Professor Zahirul Hoque from RMIT University, Australia. Professor Hoque's groundbreaking work in management control, sustainability, and public sector governance has been widely referenced and has shaped both academic and professional practice around the globe. It is a privilege for us at Universitas Terbuka to learn directly from him. This session focusing on sustainability management accounting align closely with our vision, strengthening public sector accountability, evidence-based decision-making, and sustainability public financial management. I believe today's lecture will enrich our student learning experience, encourage deeper engagement with global development in public sector accounting. To all participants, students, lecturers, researchers, and practitioners from across area in Indonesia, I encourage you to take full advantage of this opportunity. Ask a question to Mr. Hart, reflect on this insight shared, and let this session inspire new ideas and future collaboration. On behalf of the study program, I extend my sincere gratitude to Professor Haq for sharing his time and expertise, to FDAP for the continue our partnership, and for our organizing team for their dedication. May today's session bring meaningful knowledge and foster a stronger international academic network. Thank you very much. Enjoy the lectures. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ms. Bessie, for the warm and inspiring remarks. Respectfully invite Madam Dr. Rida Perwitasari as the Secretary General of FDAP to welcome speech. Madam Rida, please proceed.
Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, Prof. Zahirul Haq.
Good afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, all the participants in this lecturing 2025, it is my great pleasure to welcome to you in International Lecturing 2025. Hosted by the Public Financial Accounting Study Program of Universitas Terbuka in collaborating with Forum Dosen Akuntansi Publik or FDAP. We are deeply honored to welcome to Prof. Zahirul Haq, Professor of Accounting at the School of Accounting, Information System and Supply Chain RMIT University, Australia. Professor Haq, thank you for being with us today. It's truly a privilege to have you here in a lecturing today. Today's lecture brings us an exceptional opportunity to gain insight from one of the world leading scholars in public sector accounting and sustainability management. The theme today's session is Sustainability Management Accounting, delivers as part of course EPFA 4440 Public Sector Management Accounting is highly relevant in the time when public institutions increasingly required to integrate sustainability into governance, decision making, and performance measurement. We hope this lecture not only broaden our knowledge but also spark academic dialogue and encourage further collaboration in advancing public sector accounting practices that support sustainability development. Once again, thank you so much, Prof. Hoque. We extend our heartfelt gratitude for our willingness to share our expertise with us. With that, I'm pleased to enjoy the International Lecturing 2025. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Madam, for the wonderful image. Okay, to capture today's special moment, we kindly invite all participants to turn on your Zoom cameras. We will conduct a virtual group photo session. Please show your best smile. I will go at the 2 round of the photo session on the count of 3, 2, 1. All right, are you ready? Okay, let's start. 3, 2, 1. Once again. 3, 2.
Makasih ya.
Thank you. Okay, next we invite Prof. Zahirul Hoque, our distinguished speaker for today, to present the first season of this on sustainability management accounting and will be continued by our moderator, Ms. Hurian Kamila. Ms. Hurian, please proceed.
Okay. Thank you for our Master of Ceremony. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, Prof. Zahirul Hoque.
Good afternoon.
My name is Hurian Kamela, and I will guide the sharing session for today's lecturing about sustainability management accounting. Before that, I would like to explain about Professor Zahirul Hoque. Professor Zahirul Hoque from RMIT University, Australia. Professor Zahirul Hoque is Professor of Accounting in the School of Accounting, Information Systems, and Supply Chain. His professional positions were at La Trobe University, Deakin University, and Charles Darwin University. He was a senior lecturer at Griffith University Gold Coast campus, a lecturer in accounting at Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand, and lecturer in accounting at the University of Dhaka, Bangladesh. Without further delay, please welcome our speaker to begin the presentation. The floor is yours, Professor Zahirul Hoque.
Thank you, Oriana, and thank you everyone for your very kind words about my profile, and thanks for the opportunity to be part of the whole exercise. I'm very honored to be able to speak with you about an important topic we all encounter nowadays, which is sustainability. My main focus would be on 2 interrelated issues. We talk about sustainability and environmental management and how they can be related to accounting. So at the end of this session, you should be able to understand the basic concept of sustainability and sustainable development goals. Then I will focus on, from accounting side, how organizations or public sector agencies can prepare sustainability reports. And you should be able to understand the concept of sustainability and environmental management accounting. And then my discussion will follow on what are the three important issues in organizations which are economic, environmental, and social impacts, and how they can be aligned with organization and goals and strategy in general. Next, I will focus on how to recognize environmental costs and how to determine them. And when it comes to determining those environmental costs, I will show you how to calculate various environmental costs. And then I will be concluding with recent development in public sector accounting standard board, again, in terms of how organizations or public sector agencies should report on their sustainability issues. And I will finish my speech with summary and conclusions. So what is sustainability? And we all talk about this in our everyday discussion and everyday practice. If you Google search or if you search any website, you will find a common definition of sustainability, which refers to the ability to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs, encompassing environmental, economic, and social dimensions. What you can see here, these are three very important pillars of sustainability. We talk about social, we talk about environmental, and also economic. Let me briefly explain on each dimension or each pillar. First, social. So when it comes to society, we all talk about how a society can sustain in the longer run, given the current situations. The society comprises of humans, non-human actors. So organizations always are in dilemma when it comes to provide delivery.
Excuse me, Prof.
Yes.
The PowerPoint is not showing up.
Okay, let me see. So I'll just see whether I can move my screen. Let me change the sharing. Can you see now?
Yes, Prof. Zoom view.
But you don't see my slide, isn't it?
Yeah, no slide, Prof.
Okay. Let me just stop sharing. Let me see whether screen 3. Can you see the screen?
Yes, okay, Prof. We can see this.
Okay. So you don't see the full screen, isn't it?
Yes, Prof. Entire of slide, Prof.
So let me. So you can see it now?
Yeah, pillars
Yes.
of sustainability.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Sorry about that.
Okay, Prof. Thank you.
Multiple screens, so I'm having problem with this setting. As I mentioned, there are 3 pillars of sustainability, and I briefly mentioned about social. The social is all about delivering services to the community, and from any organizational point of view, organizations always try to satisfy various stakeholders in the society and or the community. So how organizations ensure sustainable society is a matter of concern for everyone. So we'll talk about this later on. The second is environmental sustainability. This is the big thing for the community, the whole world, or the society, because we need to protect our environment so that we can sustain in the future. And third pillar is all about economic. Economic is very important for any organizations or any community or any society, because without financial resources, no one can sustain in the longer run. So organizations try to maximize their uh, economic benefits or economic success so that they can sustain in the longer run with financial sustainability. Sustainability has been officially recognized by the United Nations back in 2015 at a General Assembly. Various governments across the globe, they got together and made a historic decisions on sustainability. As you can see, that at that United General Assembly session, they come up with the idea of 2030 vision for United Nations. The title of the agenda was Transforming Our World, the 2030 as in for Sustainable Development. So the declaration states we have adopted a historic decision on a comprehensive, far-reaching, and people-centered set of universal and transformative goals and targets. We commit ourselves to working tirelessly for the full implementation of this agenda by 2030. So this is the main slogan of these Sustainable Development Goals as set by the United Nations in 2015. So 2030 is we already finished almost 10 years. Another 5 years now it's time to assess whether organizations or countries have achieved their goal as committed back in 2015. So as you can see here, you can find these details on their website, and everyone is now talking about sustainable development goals. What are those sustainable development goals? Let's have a look. It is familiar to everyone, I guess, here at this session that United Nations come up with 17 SDGs. Those 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the number one priority is to no poverty in the world. No poverty means organizations and countries must work together to reduce the poverty. I don't think so we can achieve no poverty, but we can say minimize or reduce the poverty and across the globe. In most cases, mostly in developing countries. The second, which is also related to number one, zero hunger. No one can die without food. And third is also important part of human, which is good health and well-being. That we must work together to maintain our good health and also to maintain human well-being. Organizations, including government services, must ensure that we provide sufficient support to our community so that people can maintain their good health and well-being. And number four is another most important sustainable development goal, which is quality education. It relates to education from primary to secondary and to higher education sector, including vocational training. So quality education means that universities or higher education or education providers must ensure that their delivery materials and teaching contents must focus on sustainability and those three pillars we discussed before. Number five, I think just briefly introduce you to them so that we can relate to management accounting. And gender equality is also important. Those of you are doing accounting research, you talk about gender diversity or gender equality. This is also important for a sustainable future across the globe. And then we have clean water and sanitations. This is another environmental issue that we must ensure that we human get clean water and proper sanitation. And then we have affordable and clean energy. Number 8, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovations and infrastructure, and reduce inequalities. In addition to gender equalities, we must live in an inclusive society. And we have sustainable cities and communities, and we talk about smart city, and some countries they already adopted that concepts. And then responsible consumption and production, climate actions, life below water. We don't have to forget about life below water. This is another part of sustainable development goals. We have life on land and peace, justice, and strong institutions, partnerships for the goals. So as you can see, that you can't avoid any of these 17 goals. They are highly interrelated, and organizations, including government, must ensure that we work together to maintain sustainable development goals across each dimension. So when it comes to reporting, for the rest of the slides, I will focus on some reporting and management and costing. I will try to relate concepts to both public sector and private sectors, because as you know, like Indonesia and other countries, we also have public-private partnership. So we can't avoid private sector or private agencies, because private agencies also work together with government agencies to deliver or to ensure sustainable development goals. So from accounting point of view, as I mentioned before, that organizations look into three key dimensions or pillars: environmental, social, and economic. And so they all talk about these three important pillars, and they give it a one common name, that sustainability. When we define sustainability, we focused on these three important pillars. So when it comes to reporting, we all talk about performance. Performance reports for any organizations, whether they are private or public, most organizations everywhere in the world, they look into annual reports or standalone reports on a need basis. But most importantly, and most organizations, when it comes to annual report, and the whole idea is to compliance with individual countries' requirements or compliance with the United Nations Charter when it comes to sustainable development goals. And in Australia, sustainability reporting is voluntary. And but if you look at any websites of companies in Australia, you will find them. And companies or government agencies, they focus heavily on sustainable reports around those three important dimensions or pillars. So when it comes to reporting, as you know, that every country is different. As a result, and to maintain some kind of standard practices, there was an initiative globally, what you call it, global reporting initiatives, which has been developed by a body, and so we call it global reporting initiative. So GRI framework has 4 dimensions, as you can see from the slides. The one dimension requires to define material aspects. From accounting point of view, we don't have to place emphasis or equal emphasis on every aspect. Because of limited resources, organizations focus on the issues which are material or which are substantial, significant in terms of overall contribution to the organization's goals. Second framework focuses on assessing each aspect's boundary. Again, we need to set a boundary, and we need to find out and the area and their components, so that organization can focus on those dimensions when it comes to reporting. And then third aspect requires organizations to describe each aspect management. So from planning to organizing to controlling, all aspects of management must be focused and analyzed when it comes to reporting on sustainability. For example, HR, human resource management, or performance reporting framework. So organizations must ensure that whatever the framework they develop, they must contain sustainable elements. How to achieve sustainable goals in the longer run. And finally is fourth requirement in this GRI framework focuses on reporting performance indicators. As you know that that is part of the monitoring or controlling aspect of an organization's management control systems. So as you can see, we have various KPIs, which I'm not going to show you now. When it comes to focus on environmental costing, I'll talk about it more. Performance reporting focuses not only to financial reporting measures, but they also focus on non-financial performance or key performance indicators. So let's talk about individual sustainable dimension and what are the key elements of dimensions an organizations can report on their voluntary or mandatory sustainability reports. I'm not aware of Indonesia whether it is a voluntary or mandatory, but my understanding is that it is mandatory in South Africa, the country which started very early in their development about sustainability reporting. So let's talk about each aspect of the three dimensions and what are the KPIs for each dimensions. As you can see that economic performance, as I mentioned about, it's all about placing emphasis on monetary value or economic value an organization can create for the community, for the society as a whole. So direct economic value generated and distributed, including revenues, operating cost, employee compensations, donations, and other community investments, retained earnings, and payments to capital providers and governments. So it's a simple accounting aspect. As you know, accounting focuses on revenue sources and expenditures and retained earnings and distribution of some of earnings to capital providers and governments in the form of tax. So this is also important for public sector or private sector organizations when it comes to getting any financial funding from government. As you know, including Indonesia, many countries, governments, they provide significant amount of financial assistance to various government or private sector organizations to deliver quality and sustainable services to the community. The second dimension of this economic pillar is all about market presence. So it includes policy, practices, and proportion of spending on locally based suppliers at significant locations of operations. It's all about procedures for local hiring and proportion of senior management hired from the local community at a significant locations of operations. So looking into these particular aspects that people look around various policies for hiring people when it comes to operating their businesses. So what are the indirect economic impact? As you can see that development and impact of infrastructure investments and service providers primarily for the public benefit through commercial in-kind or pro bono engagement. So here you can see that how some of these services government provide have benefits to the public. They are not directly economical benefits, but they are helping the community when it comes to delivery of services. The second dimension focuses on environmental. As you can see, there are quite a number of aspects here or KPIs and in relation to environment. This is the huge thing for government and private sector organizations. And for example, and materials. So percentage of materials used that are recycled input materials. So, for example, local city councils or local governments, they spend a lot of money to provide services to the community. And so city council, they use a huge amount of money for recycling input materials. Secondly, energy initiatives also taken place in various organizations to provide energy efficient or renewable energy based products and services. In Australia, most states and governments provide subsidies to the community for getting sustainable or renewable energy, and like solar water or solar water systems or solar gas and electricity. So if you live in any city in Australia and you are at some salary level, you can get government subsidy to install solar, as in solar or renewable energy based systems. So total water withdrawal by source, percentage of total volume of water recycle and reuse. This is very important also for every country because water is limited and sometimes various governments and local city council, they encourage citizens to reuse their water. Especially in Australia, people can reuse their water for gardening or for watering other areas. So the other one is biodiversity is another very important dimension for environmental sustainability. I talked about this recently when I visited Bali and presented a paper on biodiversity practices in Australian local governments. Local government spend a lot of money to protect environment and various species. That biodiversity is also important, and we as a citizen must make sure that we get sufficient services from local governments to protect our environment. Emotions, affluent and waste, another dimension for environmental factors, and then various companies they look into those areas as well. The next one, products and services, initiatives to mitigate environmental impacts of products and services and extent of impact mitigations. And the last but not least here, under the environmental dimension, transport, significant environmental impacts of transporting products and other goods and materials used for the organization's operations and transporting members of the workforce. So this is another area organization must ensure that they have sustainable transporting systems. Okay, the last but not least, sustainable environmental dimension is social. Here, first part of the social sustainability is all about human rights. This is very important for any organizations across the globe that we must have significant percentage of suppliers and contractors that have undergone screening on human rights and action taken. Most obviously, for developing countries, as you know, any developing countries, you name them, that people use child labor because they are very cheap, but they are not protecting human rights. Children should be seen at educational institutions, not at the workplace. But in most developing countries, this is a very sad story that organizations use children as cheap labor. So United Nations heavily criticize this area and then asks relevant countries to ensure that they protect children for any kind of hard work labor, while they should be educating themselves through proper educations. And then we have under social, labor, and decent work practices. As you can see that any organizations you name, including universities, that we should offer decent work practices and sustainable work environment. So what KPIs we can see here? For employment, we can see total number and rate of employee turnover by age group, gender, and region. So organizations nowadays face a lot of employee turnover because of some problems, and organizations must ensure that they reduce any risk inherited from these particular situations. Occupational health and safety, rates of injury or occupational diseases, lost days and absenteeisms, and total number of work-related facilities by region. Organizations here, you can tell from their KPIs whether they have a nice occupational health and safety environment or not. So the more you give excellent facilities, the productivity will be more higher and sustainable. So training and education, organizations also should provide training and education to their employees when it comes to professional development. They are very important in managing careers endings as well. Okay, let me go through another dimension within social sustainable development, which is society. When it comes to society, as you can see, we have number one priority is the community, which focuses on nature, scope, and effectiveness of any programs and practices that assess and manage the impacts of operations on communities, includes entering, operating, and exiting. Corruption is another important dimensions that organizations look into percentage and total number of business units analyzed for risk-related corruption. So that needs to be also reduced significantly to achieve sustainable development growth. Anti-competitive behavior, this is important for fair businesses or competitive behavior, and we should be focusing on fair businesses in an area where we can see competition. So like a small farms must be protected from larger firms when it comes to competition and pricing their various products and services. And then the other dimension under social environmental goals is product responsibility. Product responsibility is all about customer health and safety, that organization must ensure that products meet their health and safety requirements across all life cycle. And marketing communications, programs for adherence to laws, standards, and voluntary course related to marketing communications, including advertising, promotion, and sponsoring. Okay, let me focus on the another important area of sustainability reporting. As you are familiar with this particular body, what do you call it? International Integrated Reporting Framework. An international body, they come up with the idea of value creation or diminution defined in terms of 6 capital. I'll discuss those 6 capital shortly. So the whole idea of the sustainable reporting, and 25 countries, they participate in a pilot program. And they come up with this international integrated reporting framework. And they mentioned that that integrated reporting has benefits because it can identify impact of businesses and stakeholders and also strategy to manage risk and opportunities. So integrated reporting not only focus on financial performance or all about businesses, they also focus on how organizations manage their risk and then achieve their opportunities. So that's really important. So the whole exercise of this international integrated reporting is all about integrating all elements of sustainable development goals in a single report under those three dimensions. And let me talk about these 6 kinds of capitals under sustainable development goals or sustainability. As I mentioned, the whole slogan is the value creation. So value creation, what do you mean by value? Value is all about increasing wealth from various aspects, and that wealth must be sustainable in the longer run, but without sacrificing the current importance to the community or to the society. So sustainability doesn't mean that we forget about everything current and then we focus on future. No, that's not the whole idea of sustainability. So we cannot reduce current opportunities for the current community or people, but we must ensure that we also preserve the current situations for the betterment of the future. This is sustainability. So here, let me talk about this integrated reporting framework, and then you can see how they are connected and how they are material in terms of significance. So financial capital is all about forming capitals for organizations. And if I mention about some examples, that financial capital is all about getting various funds ready for businesses, and those funds can be startup capital or working capital or long-term capital investment. So this is why we can see that organizations focus on a significant amount of money, which is financial. Secondly, we talk about manufactured capital. Manufactured capital is all about physical objects available for use in the production of goods and services, such as in building and equipment. So for public sector organizations, they also need building and equipments, infrastructure apartment and equipment and physical buildings. And the important part of this investment is to make sure that they create a sustainable value. Thirdly, intellectual capital. Intellectual capital focuses on all people and their property. For example, patents and licenses and operational capital such as knowledge, systems, and procedures. So as you can see, intellectual capital focuses on human dimension and non-human dimension as well. So organization must focus on these two, how they relate to each others and how they can bring intellectual sustainability to the organizations. Then we have human capital. Human capital employees competence and experiences. And as you know that humans are very important for any organizations. We're talking about employees. Those are part of human resource management or human capital. That human capital is that organizations, people's competence and expertise or experiences. Then we have social and relationship capital. The social and relationship capital are the institutions and the relationships within and between communities, groups of stakeholders and other networks, and the ability to share information and enhance individual and collective well-being. So that's really important that some people, they heavily focus on social capital. It would be interesting for you to look at some of the work done by various people in the field. If you Google search, you will find plenty of work on social capital. And lastly but not least, the nature capital, all renewable and non-renewable environmental resources and processes that provide goods or services that support the past, current or future prosperity of an organizations. It includes air, water, land, minerals, forest, biodiversity, and ecosystem health. Now, I will focus on more on management accounting part. What you have seen so far is all about financial reporting and non-financial reporting part, which includes mostly non-costing aspect or non-management accounting. For the rest of the slides, I will focus mainly on some accounting or calculation dimensions of sustainability reporting or sustainable management accounting. So organizations, when it comes to producing sustainability reports, they need a reporting cycle to produce and report relevant data. Adopts a sustainable strategy to monitor and improve EES, economic, environment, and social. So that's the fundamental things to do when it comes to produce sustainability reports. So what is that management accounting do here? As you know that management accounting concerns with internal information for various decision making. Management accounting information says that is also used for external valuation when it comes to valuing inventories for reporting to the statement of assets and liabilities or balance sheet. So what is the key focus here? Again, remember this is all about sustainable management. So anything they do in terms of costing or performance management, they must be relevant to a range of decision contexts about sustainability. That's really important for any organizations, including public sector or government agency. Here we have the accounting tools or systems or package, we call it environmental management accounting. Environmental management accounting is broad, its focus is huge, and it includes life cycle costing, environmental cost accounting, environmental performance measures, assessment of environmental benefits, and finally, strategic planning for environmental management. So we'll talk about those aspects of EMA or environmental management accounting. Okay, let's move on to more on environmental management accounting. Here we have another term in sustainable environmental accounting, which is environmental management systems, EMS. So it's all about focusing on managing businesses' environmental performance. We have international standard organizations framework 14001, which is an international standard for environmental management accounting and auditing. So as you can see from my slide, EMS and adoption of ISO 14001 requires that environmental performance be measured against policies, objectives, and targets. So let's talk about those in details and how we can calculate cost of those environmental costs. Okay, I'll finish on time, and then I will have time for questions or discussions later on. So this is an important part for the whole exercise of today's session, how to calculate environmental cost. And I'm confident that at the end of this session, and those of you who are students, you should be able to calculate relevant cost around these 5 tiers environmental cost. So here, 5-tier environmental cost is all about 5 tiers. One is conventional cost. The second tier relates to hidden cost. Third one relates to contingent cost.
Dulu ya.
Berapa jam?
Aku ngajam.
Ngajar.
Iya, Kak Sri. Kan juga barang itu ya.
Tier 4 relates to relationship and image cost. And finally, societal cost. Textbook come up with these ideas and about how to calculate environmental cost. For example, first one is conventional cost, which are direct cost associated with capital expenditures, raw materials, and other operating and maintenance cost. Let me give you an example. For example, here, think about local city councils or government. Every country, every city across the globe, they have our refuse collection or wastage collection from every residence or businesses. So city councils, they spend a lot of money about buying capital expenditures, buying raw materials, and other operating and maintenance costs. So any cost associated with refuse or wastage collection from residents and businesses, they're all conventional costs. They are mainly capital investment related or working capital related cost. So make sure that just you understand what are the conventional costs, because we call it conventional cost because they mainly relate to all capital or working capital related investment. And they are visible and they are tangible. So second example is hidden cost. Hidden costs, they are not visible and you cannot see them, but they are very significant. So those costs arising from activities such as monitoring and reporting of environmental activities, and emissions, cost of searching for environmentally responsible suppliers, and the ongoing cost of cleaning up contaminated land. As we all know that sometimes we see many places accidents happens, and because of that have accidents, and there are a lot of cleaning cost up there. and because of contaminated land. So organization need to look at those costs and then measuring them, monitoring them, and reporting them in their websites or annual reports or whatever it is. Third category is contingent cost. Contingent cost, again, you are not 100% sure that they will happen. We cannot say that for definitely. We can say there might be a case where organizations have some liabilities arising from failure to clean up contaminated sites and fines and penalties for non-compliance with regulations. In Australia, we have Environmental Protection Authority in every state, like Victoria and Queensland and New South Wales and so on. So there are a lot of regulatory requirements by this Environmental Protection Authority for various locals and residents and businesses. So if they don't follow or they don't comply with government regulations or city council regulations, so they might expect some penalties and fines. So organization always report on those contingent plan and contingent cost when it comes to reporting or preparing report for the society or for the other stakeholders. Number 4, relationship and image cost, less tangible cost and benefits that relate to consumer perceptions and employee and community relations. This is also important for us to remember that there are some significant costs which are not tangible, but that they're very high or highly related to company perceptions, consumer perceptions and employee and community relations. So it's all about word of mouth that when organizations spend a lot of money for environmental protection and citizens become aware of this development within that organizations. So companies or businesses or government agencies, they put a lot of money there to improve their external image. So there are some costs there. And the last one is societal cost that organization impose on others, the environment and society, for which they may not be held legally responsible and which cannot be compensated for in the legal system. So it's a common cost for everyone, for someone's fault, for someone's failure. So it's a kind of it cannot be compensated for in the legal system. So the society bear the whole cost, in particular these areas. Okay, so I will try to focus on another dimensions, and that dimension is all about public sector. And so public sector organizations worldwide have recently gone through significant transformation. As you are familiar with Indonesia, that like any other countries, Indonesia has also adopted accrual accounting. So traditionally, accrual accounting focuses on traditional accounting reporting, like financial informations, but hardly organization used to report on any sustainability or environmental issues. And in Australia, we used to have, I think it's 4 public sector accounting standards separately for public sector, for local government and state and federal agencies. But we don't have any kind of public sector accounting standard. We have only one now public sector accounting standard, which is common for all public sector organizations. So International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board, IPSSB, come up with this additional reporting for businesses. So traditionally, businesses and public sector organizations used to report on financial and some parts non-financial. Now they are expected to report on sustainability initiatives taken by organizations or governments. So sustainability or public sector sustainability reporting encourages, first is transparency, and then this transparency allowing government to be held accountable to the community or to the society for the longer run. Why it is important? Because it helps businesses or public sectors measure their impacts on the community or on the society as a whole. And this public sector accounting or sustainability reporting enabling better informed decision making and access to critical financial streams, including accesses to capital market inflows. So let me go through several dimensions of International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board. So International Public Sector Accounting Standard Boards are designed for, of course, public sector entities. So there are 3 criteria they must meet to implement this International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board. The first question they need to ask, are responsible for the delivery of services encompassing goods, services, and policy advice, including to other public sector entities to benefit the public and to redistribute income and wealth. So as you can see here, that public sector organizations and agencies are responsible to delivery of those services to the community. Secondly, public sector organizations must maintain, mainly finance their activities, directly or indirectly by means of taxes and or transfers from other levels of government, social contributions, debt or fees. So this is important for any public sector because of limited funding from government, that public sector agencies must maintain their own capital so that they can use those capital or sources of money to develop community related projects and deliver them as they plan. As a result, they need money and they have to earn to spend. This is the whole public sector slogan in Western countries, I believe in Indonesia as well. That is kind of slogan that you must earn to spend. Traditionally, it used to be other way around, that okay, government gives money to the community or the public sector body, and public sector bodies spend the money for the community. Now those things have changed. It's the now opposite way. So this International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board also meet the criteria that most organizations do not have the primary objective to make profits. They can't make any profits, but they are non-profit organizations. Although some public sector organizations, they can earn money, they are commercial public sector entities. So we are not talking about them here. So for example, I give you some examples about public sector entities from Australian context, like national, regional, state, provincial, and local governments. In Australia, we have 3 tiers of governments: federal government, state government or territory, which is Canberra and Northern Territory. And we have various states like New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, and so on, and local governments. The other type of entities we have, like Indonesia, we have government ministries, departments, programs, boards, commissions, and agency. And of course, we have social security funds here in Australia, and then we need to look at how they can benefit community and how they can assess their performance. So International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board develops some kind of reporting structure for each and every organizations belong to public sector agency. So you can find lots of information about International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board on their website. So as I said, I will spend 10 minutes around the whole idea, and I will be opening the session for questions, and we can discuss those in depth as well. So what we have done on this topic, we focus on the two interrelated issues. One is the sustainability and other one is accounting. So how they can be integrated to deliver sustainability services to the community. So here we talk about sustainability for corporations or businesses, which we call it corporate sustainability. This involves considering the three dimensions or three pillars: economic, environmental, and social. And when it comes to sustainability reporting, businesses or government agencies report on the impacts of each and every aspect of sustainability: economic, environmental, and social. So when it comes to reporting sustainability related issues and measures, we need a global framework. So an international body, they come up with this global reporting initiative framework so that we can have a nice standard of setting reporting template, and we can have a nice benchmarking across the globe. Why we need sustainability reporting or sustainable management or responsible management? We talk about other couple of issues when it comes to sustainability. One is ethical behavior and responsible management. So how we, like say, as academics or lecturers, ensure that we talk about sustainability in our classroom, and how we can ensure that we behave ethically and responsibly. So we need to educate our students to ensure that they are well aware of these ethical and responsible matters in sustainability reporting. Why? I believe that, I think you will agree with me that stakeholder demands is changing. Think about a community as a whole, or think about the students nowadays. Students' expectations are now on this high. They expect, high quality, lifelong learning experiences from each and every course. This is why I can see that you have organized this international e-lecturing so that students can get exposure to international dimensions of their courses. So we think about sustainability education. When it comes to sustainability education or United Nations Sustainable Development Goals quality education, it's all about sustainable education. It's all about lifelong learning experiences for students. And it is our duty to think about how we can do it. As a result, universities in Australia, or I'm definite about Indonesia as well, that governments placing huge emphasis on sustainable education for its universities. Because universities get a lot of funding from government here in Australia and in every country across the globe. So, as I said, stakeholders' demands changing, which is causing increasing adoption of sustainability practices reporting. And of course, we need to think about cost and benefits. Now, how we can manage cost and how we can determine cost, and then how they can be monitored and managed is important part of management accounting. As a result, management accounting body or discipline come up with this idea of environmental management accounting or environmental management systems. So the whole idea of this reporting is to have some kind of information about how environmental issues impact the community or the society as a whole. So, as I mentioned before, that environmental cost can be classified and managed using 5-tier framework. I have discussed this earlier, that how you can determine those 5-tier costs. The whole idea is that some costs are physically verifiable and some costs are easily calculated. Some cost cannot be calculated. So some costs are hidden, some costs are visible. So organizations need to come up with some kind of framework when it comes to determining those 5-tier costs. And you will find this 5-tier cost and if you Google search, or I have reference at the end of the session or last slides, that there is a book, Management Accounting by King Lackfield Smith. You can find out those costs. Now, integration. So environmental and social cost can be integrated into cost analysis to improve management decision making, including capital expenditure analysis. So we cannot have environmental and sustainability as an additional, and of course they are additional reporting dimension for every organizations, including public sector, but they need to be integrated with financial aspect of the organizations or financial sustainability. In Australia, Australian local government associations, and they introduce sustainability framework, but they also equally emphasize on financial sustainability in addition to social and environmental sustainability. So here we see organizations use performance measurement systems, including strategic performance management systems, and they are adapted to include environmental and social measures. And I have talked about external ISO certification, which is 14031, and GRI framework. So nearly there. So I have the let me before I finish this one, I'd like to summarize again. So the whole idea. Remember I said that we talk about sustainability, one thing, and we talk about sustainability reporting, sustainable management, or environmental management system. The whole idea of this exercise is to focus on and the long-term future for the society. Those long-term future initiatives, they must be sustainable in the long run, but without sacrificing the current uh, community or current environment. So we must ensure that we continue on providing services to the current citizen and also look for future generation. So accounting plays significant role in this whole exercise by providing useful information to managers who looks after sustainability as well as regulators and decision makers. Sustainability is not only issue for private sector organizations or for profit organization. Sustainability is also very important for government agencies or public sector services. Here in Australia, we have what we call it new public management mentality. As I mentioned before, that that because of the funding constraint, public sector agencies must earn their own revenue to spend. And then to measure all those activities, in Australia, government introduced, like Indonesia, accrual accounting. So the whole sustainability reporting or environmental management accounting is also based on accrual accounting when it comes to reporting. So organization must look into this area and then plan accordingly. And remember, there must be a strategic alignment. Organization must look into what is their strategic long-term strategy. As I mentioned, as an educator, our long-term strategy would be to provide lifelong learning experience for our students, which is heavily sustainable and has long-term impact on the future generation as well as current generations. So I just like to acknowledge that this lecture is prepared based on my lecture notes from various universities I worked, and also the textbook we used at I used to use this textbook at La Trobe University and other universities, King Langford Smith. As I mentioned, you can find this some of the ideas in this textbook. And please don't distribute these slides to any other parties outside this community, and this is not for public distribution. I hope you enjoyed my presentations, and I now open up for questions and discussions. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for the insightful presentation, Prof. Zahirul. Now we open the question and answer sessions. We will take these questions. Please raise your hand or please write your questions in the chat club. The first one, Prof. Zahirul. Prof. Zahirul, in your perspective, what are the biggest challenges organizations face when implementing sustainability reporting and integrating environmental management accounting EMA into decision-making process? Okay, Prof.
Yes, it's very topical and important questions because introducing environmental related accounting or management accounting is not easy. First of all is the disciplinary or discipline specific knowledge that organization when it comes to introducing something new, that and first thing is to find out whether they are ready or they have the capacity within the organizations to implement a new system. So try to assess the organizational capability. So when it comes to capability, it relates to financial capital, whether organizations have money, or resources to implement a new or innovative system. Second challenge is to how to, and those of you are familiar with actor network theory, how to enroll people within that network who would appreciate the new or innovative tools and techniques, because it is a human tendency to resist any new dimension or any changes in the organizations. To how to get people on board, how to make people convinced that this new idea or new initiative is good for everyone, not only for the organizations. And thirdly, I think I mentioned about this, is all about resources. And the larger the organization, the more the complexities. So how can address those complexities? Fourth, the risk. And the risk identify and risk measurement, they are two important things for organizations. And of course, overall government regulations and the skills within the organization, as I mentioned before, and educating people about the new system, and so that everyone on the same boat when it comes to understanding and implement these systems across the organizations.
Okay, Prof. The next questions from Agnia Rafaidi. Thank you very much, Professor Hoque, for your clear and insightful presentation, especially the way you link sustainability reporting, the GRI framework, and public sector budgeting practice. I learned a lot from your explanations. In practice, how can public sector organizations balance the need for comprehensive sustainability indicators, economic, environmental, and social, with the limited data, budget, and technical capacity they often face? Are they minimum core indicators you would recommend it government start with? Please,
Yeah,
Prof.
that's another important question and a very well posed. And of course, is because when it comes to identifying key performance indicators, it is a challenging task for government organizations, because government organizations, they are not profit oriented. They are heavily people centric, community driven. So first thing is to find out how you can get the information like economic impact or societal impact, because some of the information you don't have any numbers. So excuse me, you basically based on people's perceptions about the importance, and so try to minimize all those challenges. Have a limited number of KPIs around those three. You cannot remove one dimension that, oh, that dimension is not important. No. When it comes to sustainable reporting, it must have three important dimensions: economic, environmental, and social. So organizations can, or public sector government, again, first thing, any public sector organizations want to implement this, they need to find out what are their core mission, core activities. So core activities, mission and strategy, and then find out how you can assess those strategic goals, how they can be assessed. So you come up with, say, 2 or 3 indicators. I wouldn't recommend more than, say, I think it's, if I follow Bob Kaplan's balance scorecard, a maximum 20 KPIs altogether. But the lesser, the better. The economic, and perceptions about the community when it comes to service, perceptions about that, whether community is happy with the services city councils or government organization provides. So it's very hard to answer to your questions, the minimum core, yeah, and depending on the organizational activities and organizations strategies. But try to minimize, not to use too many KPIs. Otherwise, they are overcrowded and they get importance. So again, materiality aspect is important from accounting point of view, which have significance, importance to the creation of public value. So you have to ask what is public value and how they can be created through various activities and then how you can assess them. That's really important. Thank you.
Okay, Prof. It's hard to implement it. This.
Yeah,
Okay, Prof. The third questions. Dear Prof. Zahirul, in your view as an expert, to what extent can global public sector fiscal governance instruments such as OECD Green Budgeting Framework contribute to your national and subnational decarbonization efforts? Moreover, through the specific mechanism, can this instrument influence budget structure, policy choice, and long-term emission reduction pathways? It's about OECD's green budgeting.
Yeah, I think it's OECD is very important player when it comes to global reporting or, as you mentioned here, green budgeting framework. And I think again, although we have International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board, and it doesn't mean that we have to use that global standard, but because every country is different, I can tell you, and then from Indonesian context is different from Indian, Bangladeshi, or Australian context. So you need to look at the say green, like environmental or emotions management, like in Australia we have various environmental regulations, scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. So you need to look at those areas, and then I don't think that we can be said that okay, this one is particularly relevant, but you need to look at the context. And again, the government has to come forward to regulate those carbon emissions, uncertainties, and then they try to give a solution to the organizations how they can report, and whether they can be related back to the global green budgeting framework or global reporting framework. But it's a tough call for public sector agency. I don't see any solution, So it has to be very country specific. It's not necessarily you have to follow global reporting framework because they are not mandatory. So they're all voluntary. Thank you.
Yeah, different countries, different reason.
Yes, yes.
Okay, the next questions from Andi Faisal. Dear Professor Zahirul, in your view as an expert, to what extent can global public sector fiscal governance instruments, okay, it's repeat again, yeah, OECD's green budgeting framework contribute to national and subnational decarbonization effort? Moreover, through what the specific mechanism, Prof, can this instrument influence budget structure, policy choice, and long-term emission reduction pathways? It's like the same questions before, but the specific is about how
Yeah,
to
yeah.
mechanism, Prof.
Yeah.
Mechanism from OECD Green's budgeting framework. Prof.
Again, we have United Nations Sustainable Development Goals framework, and then some countries. I'm not sure about Indonesia, like Saudi Arabia, they have Vision 2030. Other countries Vision 2031. So, and when it comes to have some kind of principles, you need to look at what are the ideas, what are the issues have significant, I mentioned this before, value creation opportunities. For example, when it comes to biodiversity and in local city council areas, we protect environment so that we can live with a species and various small animals. But in Australia, our population is also growing, so we need to develop new houses. So you need to cut forest and other areas. So we call it one side urban development, other side is environmental protection. So I would say the principle should be some kind of balancing. So not to focus heavily on environment or not to focus heavily on urban development. Whatever the things you do, there must be some kind of balance there, and that balance could guide the kind of information you need, and so that people can access. For example, city council's biodiversity disclosures. So biodiversity disclosure, city councils in Australia, they report on their balance sheet or annual report what they do to protect environment, and they also tell people what they should need to do to also improve residents living conditions, like they need to have modern houses, they need to provide clean water. So again, looking at the balancing, so for examples, I think it's government look for those information which are very relevant to community related welfare, like we have 17 sustainable development goals, for example, clean water. So we need to get information about where we have a shortage of clean water, where we need to look into those areas, and those information can be fed into accounting areas, and they can develop some sustainable development report. Thank you.
Yeah, Prof. It's so hard to balancing,
Yeah.
especially in specifications of this country.
Yeah.
Okay, this question from Bu Ratna. Bu Ratna, can you please open this mic?
Hello, Prof.
Hello, Ratna. we might see you very soon.
Yeah. Thank you for your valuable presentation, Prof.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I just wondering, what principles should guide the presentation of management accounting information so that it remains accessible, unbiased, and generally useful for managers or government?
Yeah, if you remember simple management accounting information usefulness, first thing we need to focus on information which are relevant. So when it comes to relevant, means you try to avoid excess and overloaded information. So that's the important relevant principles. And the other one would be which are easily accessible, like you can't have information which are not easily accessible by the users. So, and then make them very simple and try to avoid complexities. So, and then of course try to be transparent how you develop these measures and what are the basis, so that everyone understand their philosophical ideas behind developing those kind of measures. So these are the important dimensions, and of course, all those information must have long-term focus, sustainable focus. You can't have like very short term and then forget about them. So we talk about sustainability, and then you have a right kind of measures so that you can assess and monitor their performance.
Yeah, Prof. So maybe it could be better if the government maybe put the financial reporting about sustainability on their website like that, yeah. So maybe it will make people more trust with the government's performance like that.
Yeah, I think it's as I mentioned before that it's all about public trust,
Yes.
public accountability. So if you look at any local government website here in Australia, you will find that they have clear reporting framework and they are clear information about what they do in terms of sustainability. So it's a trust and public accountability is important.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. I hope there are in this I'm sorry, a bit nervous. Yes, in this meeting, there are many public sector practitioners and government maybe. So it could be some valuable information from you. Your best practice that our government in Indonesia should be display about all the framework and the financial information about in our public sector website like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you, Ratna. See you soon.
See you soon.
Thank you, Ratna. Okay, maybe last question, yeah, Prof, because
Yeah,
it's
sure.
about 12 minutes again from by Roshida. Dear Prof. Zahirul, in your view, how far the governments in the world with the sustainability accounting statement? As your information here in Indonesia, especially in the local government's context, we are still struggling with the issues of accountability, transparency, corruption, and so on. In my opinion, government accounting of Indonesia has sustainable accounting. It's just the theory, opinion, perspective that not yet or less be implemented. It's about system from Indonesia, from local government. This highlight is about accountability, transparency, corruptions, and happening in Indonesia. Okay, thank you, Prof.
I completely agree with these suggestions that every country should have sustainability, accountability, or transferability framework. I'm not sure whether because it's not a private sector entity that you must have a voluntary kind of framework. But in Australia, as I mentioned, that we have Australian Local Government Association, which is a government body. So they look after every city council's various activities. So every city council have a reporting framework on their website. So people can see what city council is doing for their citizens, and then our government always encourage them to do so. Excuse me.
Okay, Prof.
Yeah. As I said, I think it's as a government, Indonesian government can make it mandatory for all public sector agencies to have a set of framework or KPIs on their website so that every citizen can find out what they're doing in terms of citizen or public services. It's very important for the government.
Okay, Prof. Zahirul, thank you so much for your excellent sessions, and thank you to all participants for your engagement. The conclusion as follows. 1. Corporate sustainability involves considering the economics, environmental, and social impacts of an organization's activities. Number 2, Changing stakeholders' demands have driven the increased adoption of sustainability practices and reporting, even though the associated costs and benefits are often difficult to measure in financial terms. Number 3, environmental management accounting, EMA, provides relevant information regarding an organization's environmental impact. Number 4, environmental costs can be classified and managed using 5-tier frameworks.
Hmm.
And the last, number 5, environmental and social costs can be integrated into cost analysis to enhance management decision-making, including capital expenditure analysis. Now we have reached to the end of sharing session. I will return the event to the MC, Master of Ceremony, Miss Vivi Oktari. The time is yours.
Thank you, Rian. Yeah. Hello, baby.
Okay, thank you, Professor, for the insight for the outstanding presentations. And thank you for the moderator for the good. Okay, distinguished guests, with the conclusion just delivered, we have now reached the end of today's event. We express our deepest gratitude for the exceptional material shared by our expert speaker, Prof. Zahirul. May today's session enhance our knowledge and understanding. I, Vivi Oktari, on behalf of the Entry Organization Committee, sincerely apologize for any mistake or shortcoming during this event. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and see you again at our the next event.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
and
Prof.
yeah,
Thank you so much,
okay,
Prof.
see you soon again. Bye for now. Bye.
Prof.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Prof.
Bye.